Hey, welcome to the New Home Insights podcast by John Burns Real Estate Consulting. I'm Dean Worley, your host. Each episode, we're going to bring you some of the best minds in the housing business talking about some fascinating topics or trend or innovation or issue, just like the one you're about to listen to. Enjoy. Welcome to New Home Insights, the John Burns Real Estate Consulting podcast on the U.S. housing market. I'm your host, Dean Worley. Our guest today is Liza Hausman. She is the Vice President of Industry Marketing at Houzz. That's kind of the all things housing, design, and decor and renovation website that has really become one of the biggest influences on what our homes look like in the entire world. So we're going to be kind of all over that space today in talking with Liza, not just about trends, but also we'll cover kind of what people need from their homes, the statements they make through their home and how it shapes their lives. So Liza, first of all, welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Why don't you start us off with what you do, your background a little bit, and what you do at Houzz?
Sounds good. As you mentioned, I run industry marketing here at Houzz, and that basically means that I focus on the industry rather than the consumer side of our business, and that spans everything from working with all of the professionals in our community, the builders, architects, interior designers, painters, you name it. I think we have 65 categories of professionals now that have a profile on Houzz. 65 categories and more than 2.7 million of them worldwide, so pretty massive. And so I work with that community, with the brands and manufacturers, and kind of everything that we typically talk about on the trade side. In terms of my background, I've been working in marketing for about 30 years now, primarily kind of growing and scaling businesses from early stage to larger stage, which is kind of where Houzz is now. I've been here about 9.5 years now, so really since the early days at Houzz.
Houzz, a lot of folks think, I think most just general people think of Houzz as that place where they go get great ideas or they go post great ideas for, renovating or designing their home. Is that, and that's still the dominant face of Houzz. Is that fair to say?
Well, I think face is the right word for that, Dean. I think that's a great way to describe it because the photos have such a big impact. But I think what people sometimes don't realize is that all of those great photos that are such a great source for inspiration and ideas are actually there because they're the portfolio photos, the finished projects of that 2.7 million pros who have profiles on Houzz and who are the kind of other side of that community, of that marketplace. So we've got homeowners, but homeowners are coming to Houzz not just for inspiration, but actually to find pros to help them, reach their goals and complete their home projects, whether that's brand new home, custom home construction, or just getting their home painted and freshened up and everything in between.
So you have that public face at Houzz has been there from day one, but you also, as you mentioned just a minute ago, you're big behind the scenes. You're a major actor behind the scenes too. What's kind of next for Houzz? At least you're part of Houzz.
Yes, well, maybe by behind the scenes, it's kind of behind the scenes from a consumer or a homeowner perspective because
exactly,
they don't necessarily know what's going on. But it's very much, front and center for that professional community and, for the brands and manufacturers that sell on Houzz or sell through the pros that we have on Houzz, who specify or actually sell product lines. So in terms of what's next for Houzz, I think it's essentially a natural evolution. When maybe 9 years ago, we introduced our local advertising program for pros. It was kind of subscription advertising program to help them make more connections with homeowners. That program has absolutely evolved over the years. But what we're most excited about right now is really expanding our tool set for our professional community. So many of them are small, medium businesses that are looking for ways to, run more efficiently and run more profitably and deliver a great client experience. And so we've expanded Houzz Pro from a marketing and advertising model to a much broader set of tools, which cover everything from lead management through to project management, design tools, and really everything pros need to run their business effectively.
So almost, tell me if I'm completely wrong in saying this, but almost the Oracle for the housing sector, in a sense. No, and you're
Uh,
not going to be moved to Texas or I'm sorry, moved to Hawaii like Larry Ellison, are you?
no, I'm not planning to move to Hawaii. Although,
Okay.
with COVID, I think we're all working in different and creative places these days, and I'm sure many people would like to be in Hawaii. Um, but I don't know. I think from the Oracle perspective, I think there is that aspect in the sense that we're trying to provide kind of the best data and insights to pros as well to help them do their jobs better, to help them understand homeowners and the trends that are happening there. But I think this is really kind of the platform for running their business, right? This is the
Okay.
pros that are using House Pro are in it all day, every day, to do everything to run their business better. From again, marketing and closing more projects to actually managing their projects, taking payments from customers, sending invoices, building estimates, kind of the whole workflow.
Okay. So pretty holistic then, pretty
It
just
really is.
thorough, isn't it? Okay. So before we get into kind of the classic, the design and kind of the livability of homes and things of that, I was a little surprised sometimes that because you are very interested in things that sometimes seem sort of outside the sector, but really have an impact on how we live. So you focus on a lot of those human factors that are important to people looking to, I don't know, to remake their home or have their home reflect the things that are important to them. What are some of the ways that you've identified in terms of how people are doing this? And maybe we can start with a trend that is just absolutely huge right now, which is sort of mental and physical well-being.
Yeah, it's interesting. Is that I think there's always an interesting discussion about like where do trends come from, and certainly some of them are dictated by celebrity culture, but I think for the most part, lots of trends come through kind of shifts that happen in society, or economically, things that are major impacts, and of course, we're all living through the impacts of COVID for the last year. And, it's been interesting to see the evolution in our surveys. People have always had, some interest in making sure they'll say, yes, I want a healthy home. But it's not really an area of focus unless they have someone with an illness, or asthma or something that's more critical. But we're seeing that really, really shift and seeing, not just House, but a number of companies that kind of do this type of research really note that the pandemic's been a reality check for everyone in terms of both physical and mental health. Um, what are some of the examples? People don't have enough time, right? Even though they're at home, people are stressed, and so kind of on the mental health front, they feel more anxiety. Their productivity is diminished. They're more likely to get, divorced when they have these high levels of stress. And research has also found that time stress has a stronger negative effect on happiness, even than unemployment. So people are looking, on the home side. What does that mean? How does it manifest itself? I think there's a couple ways. People are looking for their home to be, a better reflection or a better support system for balance, and work life balance in particular right now, as we're all working from home and homes are doing double duty. But I think people are also more aware of their families' physical and mental health, just because we're all together that much more and kind of experiencing these things together.
How about things like sustainability? Is that something you look at and track how important that is?
We do, and I think we have our next House and Home study coming out shortly, which tends to track that. And what we're typically seeing, and I think what we're seeing in the industry overall, is that the shift has really becoming sustainability from like a status symbol. This is something special, that I kind of show off with, to actually becoming mainstream. So it's not something I'm going to pay a premium for. It's something that now has kind of moved to, I expect things to be sustainable. I expect companies to be thinking about sustainability and the things that I care about when they're manufacturing products. It's not just a nice to have premium, that kind of wealthy people are doing as a badge. It's really, it's really for everybody. And it's part of kind of the mental and moral calculus people are making and doing when they make product choices.
I'm surprised, maybe I shouldn't be, but I'm surprised that you do really kind of place home design, decor, and things like that in these much larger societal contexts, don't you? How people want to see meaning in their choices in their home.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's all of their choices, right? But the home is a big one, and it's a place where they tend to make larger product investments. Apart from a car, things like furniture and decor are some of the bigger purchases that people make, and so they put a lot of thought into those decisions.
I heard you say something on a webinar that we did not that long ago about influencers, and I hope I got it right, but influencers still matter. But is it getting more and more difficult to differentiate the authentic voices from the not so much?
That's exactly it. There's actually been a bit of a backlash on influencer marketing where, consumers are kind of critical. They're now saying, that feels phony to me, right? That so many people are using influencers that people are kind of questioning what's really the purpose, behind companies and brands. What's the real story? And so they're looking to brands to kind of communicate that and have that story above and beyond, just product placement through influencers.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I just saw the other day where the newly minted billionaire Whitney Wolfe Herd, the founder and CEO of Bumble, the dating app, said something about, I'm going to get it wrong, but she said something about how a side hustle, how you can monetize any kind of a side hustle. And that just struck me as almost dystopian, this world where we all just are selling ourselves to each other. And that scares me. I mean, so I don't know, that continues. That's almost more of a statement than a question, but it does worry me in how do we tell the authentic voices from the not authentic voices? I don't know.
Yeah, no, they're good questions. I mean, like as a parent of a 15-year-old, I see this kind of the decision making and the kind of desire to have your voice heard, but also
Yeah.
the kind of critical of folks that are doing this sort of shameless self promotion. So it's
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And are they going to get good at faux authenticity or
right.
false authenticity? That's a terrible, worst made up word ever. But you know what I mean? Are people going to learn that being their social media bag of tricks is how to appear as if you really mean what you say?
Well, I mean, it definitely. If it's a way to make a living, I think it's going to happen. Although it seems to me to be absolutely an exhausting way to live.
Yes, it would. But if you're a Kardashian, it's just the norm. So
there you go. Well,
what are you
yeah,
going to do?
they probably are authentic.
So, Liza, you mentioned a minute ago we were talking about time and the importance of time, and it seems like we all have more time now because a lot of us aren't doing a commute anymore. Are you concerned? Are homeowners concerned with how they spend their time, and how does that play into their home choices?
Yeah, well, believe it or not, you'd think we would have more time without the commute, but
Yeah,
people still feel just as stressed. But since they're at home, they're looking to relaxation and other features in the home that kind of help with that. The bathroom is certainly a big one. Kitchen and bath remodels are always top of the list in terms of the renovation projects we see or the focus of new construction projects. And some of the things that we see, people looking at now are steam showers or aromatherapy shower heads. There's a Brizo bathtub filler that can hold a cup of tea or a glass of wine. In general, people are looking to, take soaks, long showers, get more natural light, and kind of bring the
yeah,
outside in. Put in, people are a lot more thoughtful about lighting and having, dimmable lighting or mood lighting or LED lighting, and bringing that into their, their bathroom and their living and relaxing spaces as well.
How do you solve? I mean, light's critical. You've made that very clear. I've heard you talk about that before. How do you solve for lack of light, or at least natural light, in confined living spaces, maybe attached housing, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We definitely see a lot more people putting in LED lighting around mirrors, under cabinets,
Mm.
things that kind of give a more natural glow, more creative light wells or skylights
Oh,
when walls are closed in. So people really are trying to add, to add light, natural light if they can, but if not, definitely. Whether it's kind of LED and background light, or putting in, we see in bathrooms, chandeliers or other kind of little jewel moments, that kind of add
yeah.
to the charm and the relaxation.
So you talk about bathrooms as these relaxation spaces, I guess. How about? I mean, sleep is pretty critical. Do you see more like separate sleeping locations or sleeping pods or things like that happening?
Less on the sleeping side, but in general, having some separate spaces is something we're seeing more of. Again, because people are more on top of each other during the day. Um, uh, while we generally see, kind of open concept, we're seeing more people, actually looking at ways to close off the kitchen or part of their kitchen, for having, sliding or pocket doors or other ways to have spaces sometimes be open and sometimes be closed off. We're seeing more kind of creative office solutions, so desks tucked into closets, or other nooks of the home that can be kind of closed off when the workday is over, but can do double duty. So people are looking for ways to get away. And one of the other things that we see along that line too is, people are putting in ADUs, and often they're using them for home gyms, or home offices, a standalone structure in the yard, just again to give people a little more separation and personal space.
So in terms of home office, though, so are we really seeing? I mean, is that something that's again another trend that's absolutely huge now and is going to be here forever? I think. Have you any thoughts on sort of the location of home offices? I mean, specifically as opposed to little niches and such, but really, what are people looking for in sort of the perfect home office in terms of size, location, that kind of thing?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I don't know that we have information on like what's the perfect home office. Most
Yeah.
people have the footprint that they have, right? And I've talked to people that are like, "Thank God I remodeled last year and we put in that home office that's on the other side of the house from where the kids are, because now I have a quiet space to work." To folks that again, like it's a couple, a young couple at home, both have to be on Zoom calls and talk. And so, the things that might have been ideal before are changing a little bit in terms of noise reduction. Having an attractive background has become, a thing with Zoom.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just having a good, comfortable, ergonomic space, but if you're going to have to be on video, having a good background, or having a background in your office that is clean and works well is something that people are having to think about now.
That's a great point. Mine is terrible. I don't have a real confined workspace, and it's the background is just kind of the rest of the living room. It looks awful. It's so it's always cluttered. How about going pinging back to sort of that health and well being, touchless? I mean, that has to be huge right now. Is touchless everything a wave?
Yes, faucets, and now light fixtures, but
Yeah.
absolutely, people are absolutely replacing faucets as part of kitchen and bathroom upgrades. Almost, all manufacturers have come out with some version of a hands-free faucet. And I think it's interesting to see how the marketing evolves too, right? Originally, it was like, "Hey, this is convenient. Your hands are messy. You don't want to get the faucet
Yeah.
sticky," and now it's like, great, it's totally hands-free from a germ perspective. We're really decreasing the spread of germs. So,
It
um,
got more serious, didn't it? It went from, oh, you might have a kid in your arm, to this will save your life.
pretty much.
Yeah. How voice activation? I'm fascinated by this because as a youngster, I love Star Trek. How far are we from Star Trek days where you just say computer and then ask for anything at all and it appears, except we won't say computer, we'll say Alexa. I mean, is voice activated becoming just the norm? And do you see that expanding and growing?
I definitely see it expanding and growing. I think it's kind of generational. Um, So, I expect in like another generation, it's absolutely going to be the norm because everybody's going to be comfortable using it, uh, and it may not quite be there yet, but absolutely the technology is there, um, and it's become much easier, to set, for homeowners to set these kinds of things up themselves.
And there's nothing more annoying than when Alexa doesn't play the music you want her to play. That's very frustrating to me. Livability trends. We kind of touched on home office already. How about you kind of started to talk about the kitchen? So I think you see the kitchen becoming a little more fewer open kitchens, right? Do you think that is a temporary trend wrought by COVID, or do you see that being long term?
It's a good question. I mean, we actually don't know if it's just that so many homes have already been renovated to have open plan kitchens. There's not much penetration left, and the majority of homes are set up that way. Um, I still think that when you have a limited footprint, people are still going to want the open concept. It just is, makes the room feel bigger, and so I don't think that there's sort of a trend away from it. But I do think some people put on the pause button, and are also thinking about what does it mean to be partially open? Should we have, an
Mm.
open kitchen that closes off with double doors, or is there part of the space that closes off? Um, and we're also seeing, because people are spending so much more time cooking and baking, they're asking even more of their kitchens. Creating multiple work zones for the cooking and baking, as well as having workstations and kid stations, and kitchens are still functioning as that hub of the home.
So you're seeing that. Are you also seeing more tech in the kitchen? So almost like a home assistant in the kitchen kind of a thing?
Yeah, I mean, we saw 35% of homeowners put in a home assistant in their
Wow.
kitchen, in our most recent kitchen survey, and that's huge. Just it's a huge number, really. 35% at
It
this
is.
stage. Yeah.
It's super helpful too because we have the little Alexa. I can't think of the name. The little add-on Alexa with the screen. I'm totally drawing
Mm.
a blank on the name, but it's a recipe. Follow a recipe. Oh my god! It's just she'll wait for you. She'll when to do it. It's like having your. It really is like having your very knowledgeable personal assistant right there telling you how to cook things. They still come out tasting terrible because I'm a terrible cook, but they're super helpful.
Yeah, and we have 14% of homeowners with a tablet in the kitchen, which is I definitely use for recipes, and more with computers. So it's definitely come in.
Storage, more storage, and kind of the same question. Do you see an expansion of storage being COVID related and maybe trending downward, or is that here to stay?
I think it's here to stay. I think that uh, following COVID, I think what we saw is that people were stockpiling more in terms of shelf stable and paper goods, and I think
Yeah.
that's going to continue.
Huh.
Not to the degree that it did, I think, following the Great Depression, and the hoarding that happened of appliances and all kinds of crazy things. But I do think that people have kind of that emergency kit, mindset a little bit more. Then that's not necessarily going to go away. Even when things open up, people are going to want to feel like they have that safety net. We already saw that upgrading cabinets and expanding storage and having all kinds of custom storage option has been um, you know consistently on the rise over the last 5+ years, and I think this just kind of added fuel to that fire.
It's interesting. That's come up a couple times in recent podcasts. So, are you of the persuasion that the COVID generation is sort of going to be scarred by it, kind of like the Depression generation was and saved a lot more money? Do you think we're going to have this impact on this whole generation for a while?
I do.
Generally speaking. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely do. I think, and especially on folks in their teens and 20s,
Yeah.
it's definitely going to stay with them. Again, I don't think like as terribly as the Great Depression did, but I
Yeah.
do think it will shape their psyche.
That'll be interesting to tease out over the years. How about the backyard? Pergolas, cottages. You go to Costco and they sell these ready to go sheds, and there's always a crowd around them. I mean, is that something also? Is that something you're seeing a big trend toward that?
Yeah, like I said, the there's a couple things going on there. One is like from a mental health standpoint, right? People just kind of trying to get more of the outdoors into their life in general, and that might be trying to bring it indoors with more windows and openings to fresh air. We see things like pass-throughs. So people might in the kitchen have a big window that on the other side in the backyard is kind of a bar with bar stools. Um, People, your outdoor space really extends your living space for people that aren't in the coldest parts of the country, and so we do see
Yeah.
people investing in pergolas and patios because that's a lot less expensive than putting in an addition. um, a lot faster to do, and really gives people now, even more with COVID, a safe space, right, to congregate potentially with another family or a neighbor, and
Yeah.
still be able to have a little socializing in a safe place.
That's fascinating because it kind of is an analog to communities where in master plan communities, they're looking for ways to have that indoor outdoor connectivity and the amenities and things like that. So what you're saying is basically people are looking for that in the house with these pass throughs and these stools open to the backyard and such.
Yeah, kind of indoor outdoor living. And it's funny you bring up the planned communities. I was on a kind of a call with folks working in that space, and we were talking exactly like the some of the master plans that are built on waterways where you can
Mm.
kayak, etc. Like those have sold out like crazy and have been very popular. And a lot of
Wow.
other master plan communities are rethinking their community spaces and trading them out in favor of paths or other kind of outdoor exercise spaces versus gyms or community meeting rooms, etc. So it's interesting how people are rethinking it.
Let's finish with talking about design trends. I know that's again the public face of house. I mean, that really is identified. House is such a great place to identify and to contribute to what's going on in terms of design and decor. What's hot in the kitchen right now?
That is a great question.
Besides the food, we hope.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Hopefully, the food, the stove.
yeah.
So one thing, and I think it kind of ties into our conversation earlier around authenticity, is that uh, you know people are putting in kitchens that don't necessarily look cookie cutter. They're more of a custom collected over time, different cabinetry colors and styles, different, mixed metals, a more kind of eclectic but personalized look.
Hmm.
I always think about like, remember the years when everything was, stainless steel and a granite countertop, and every kitchen looked pretty
Yeah.
much the same. And so there's really, a movement away from that, where materials are used in interesting places, way more mixed materials that look way more, I think, artistic, and
Yeah.
creative, and like things sort of evolved over time rather than I just did this kitchen and it looks kind of all of a piece.
Okay. Yeah. How about lighting? Is there something? How are people doing lighting? Are they doing it differently?
Yeah, lighting is actually a really interesting one because people are kind of looking at lighting as jewelry, in the sense that it kind of really adds that shine and sparkle. It's not just a workhorse. We're seeing a lot of swing arm lighting, and kind of brass sconces. Um, just a lot of variation and a lot of very artistic, diverse lighting designs that again, look like they're accenting the space and not necessarily just a workhorse.
Colors are. Is there an identifiable trend going on in colors right now?
No, that's a little bit harder. Neutrals are still generally pretty popular. The whites, grays. We're starting to see more warm colors come back into
Hmm.
homes. We're sort of a very cool gray palette for a long time, which is still popular. But we're seeing a lot more warm colors and warm woods brought into spaces now. And then pops of color, so a pop of yellow blacks, backsplash, or um, blue bar stools. So people are getting a little bit bolder with their color choices.
Is for a while. Didn't it seem like for a while there, things like these bright colors, these almost statement colors, things like red or blue cabinets or something like that was becoming a thing. Is that not a thing? Is that over?
I don't know. I don't remember seeing that as a thing. I
Hmm.
think colored appliances are a thing and are still a
Okay.
thing. So when people are looking for that pop of color, we're definitely seeing like a red, blue, black. You know, it's crazy to see the variety that's available now in appliance finishes. It's pretty cool.
How about doors? Big doors? I've heard you say that big doors are in. How does
Um,
that work?
that is interesting. So having a bold front door, a statement front door, maybe because people, are just coming to the door and coming into the house. But when people kind of think about curb appeal and what kind of stands out and being welcoming, we're seeing a lot of statement front doors. It could be a regular sized door with side lights. It could be a very oversized modern door. We actually sell front doors on House, and we sold out of a lot of very large kind of modern, even metal doors over this past year. So it's been a popular category.
I guess it wouldn't be welcoming, but it would be make a statement to have a drawbridge. Who's going to do that first? Have a drawbridge in place of a door. What do you think?
You need a troll
No?
to go underneath it.
Troll. Okay, yeah. No, yeah, you can have maybe a human scale moat around your house. Someone's gonna do that. Larry Ellison probably has that in Hawaii,
There's
for all
probably
we
like
know. So,
Japanese gardens that have
oh
have
yeah,
these lovely little bridges that go over that.
that's true. I've seen
That's
that.
very
Yeah.
peaceful and zen. We may be seeing more of that. You could be onto
Okay.
something.
Okay. Anything else design wise we haven't covered, trend wise that we haven't talked about?
I think tile is probably
Mm.
one we didn't touch on that is good to touch on. We're really seeing accent walls in kitchens and bathrooms have a moment. The entire countertop to ceiling in a kitchen with a tile or a stone slab, a bathroom going from floor all the way up, a single wall. Um, Lots of different mixed and bold tiles. So people are really having fun with tiles and not just square tiles, but hexagonal tiles and multicolored tiles. And so I think something to be on the lookout for is just creative use of tiles and on surfaces that you wouldn't necessarily expect.
Should have thought about that. Our very good friends here, they just redid their bathroom. Now that I think about it, they did. They did some funky tile shapes, and they were kind of really almost they fake random kind of configurations and such. It looks very fun. It looks pretty really good, but yeah, they did it like that.
That's cool. Always fun.
Nostalgia. That seems like, I mean, does everything, every trend, every fad eventually become hot again? It
In
seems
my,
like
in
that. Is
my
that?
personal experience, that appears to be the case because
Yeah.
the 80s, the 90s, everything's kind of come back. Even just seeing brass come back, obviously, they're, fashion between fashion and home decor, it comes back and is reinvented or reimagined in different ways. But it is kind of funny to see that everything old becomes new again.
It seems to, doesn't it? Okay, so I'm gonna give you a little. You're going to go on the hot seat here, Liza. Ready?
Okay.
Uh, 70s stuff. Is that hot right now?
70s stuff, like within
Yeah,
the home.
1970s kind of stuff. Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, again, I think that reimagined versions of it, absolutely.
Mm.
The Standard Hotel in London um, has kind of a late '70s, early '80s. It's plants and natural wood, and it feels like you've stepped straight out of a like Bond movie from from the '70s with the decor. But
Yeah.
it has that very loungy, that '70s kind of loungy, earthy feel to it. And I think just like in clothing fashion, people look to the archives. And given that nature is back in demand, I think a lot of these trends kind of tie into people's desire for that kind of sustainable natural wood, kind of a kind of beachy, relaxed feel.
Okay, here's the hot seat. You have to answer in a yes or no as fast as you can. Ready? If it and the yes or no is it's going to be a trend again. Ready? The color puke green. Go.
No,
No. Lava lamps.
already came back.
Mm. Ah, dang! I should have. I didn't pay attention. Bean bags.
Already back.
Oh, disco.
Already back.
I'm okay. Never, you know what? Never mind then. God, I was trying to think of things. Disco, really? I guess you're right. This has got a new name. Um, how about, let's end with kind of this individuality. It seems like you hear words like bespoke, right? And which, by the way, at the first I hated that word, but then I kind of got it. It's kind of individualized, right? And you talk a lot about curated things. Going back to how we started, I guess at the beginning. Is it really all about people wanting to make their own individual statement through their house?
Absolutely. It absolutely is, right? And things are more affordable now. If you think back 30 years, there wasn't the variety in product that was affordable and accessible, right? And today it really is. And so people have, such an enormous amount of choices. And even just culturally, right, we're in this sort of phase of individual self-expression, right, and the individual brand, and anybody can be an influencer. I think people really do want to put their own personal stamp on their homes, and they want it to be a reflection of their personality and their values and how they want to live.
I like that. I'd rather somebody has they follow a trend or they start a trend that reflects themselves rather than reflects the taste of Gwyneth Paltrow, and that's probably a personal bias there. Sorry. Eliza, this has been fantastic. You've been this is very informative. I said we're going to cover a lot of ground, and you covered a heck of a lot of ground. I appreciate it.
No, this was super fun, Dean. Had a great time.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining us too, listeners. I'm Dean Worley, your host today with Liza Hausman on New Home Insights. Thanks for listening.